The key card fell from his wallet like a death sentence. Maya stood motionless in their bedroom, a half-folded shirt forgotten in her hands. The plastic rectangle lay on the hardwood floor between her bare feet, its sleek black surface emblazoned with gold lettering, the Riverside Grand. Not the budget airport hotel where Ethan claimed he'd stayed during his conference in Chicago last week. Not the Holiday Inn receipt he'd casually tossed on the kitchen counter as proof. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. Room 718. She flipped it over, expecting to find a date, an explanation, anything that might offer an innocent alternative to the truth that was already crystallizing in her mind. The back was blank. She slid her thumb across its smooth surface, feeling the slight ridge where the magnetic stripe held its secrets. Who had Ethan brought to room 718? How many times had the card opened that door? How many nights had she fallen asleep alone in their bed while he was there? Her phone buzzed on the dresser. A text from Ethan, landing in 30, can't wait to see you. Love you, 3 years of marriage, 1 mortgage. Countless promises. All suddenly suspect. Maya slipped the keycard into her pocket and resumed folding his laundry. Her movements mechanical now. She would finish this task, and then she would decide what to do with the weight of this new knowledge. She had 30 minutes to prepare herself for the moment when their front door would open and she would have to look into the eyes of a stranger who wore her husband's face. 6 months earlier. Don't be so dramatic, Ethan laughed, pulling Maya closer as they swayed on the dance floor. The wedding reception around them pulsed with energy. Her college roommate Caroline beaming in white, faces flushed with champagne, the band playing their third encore. I'm not being dramatic, Maya insisted, though she was smiling too. I'm simply stating a fact. The De Silva account is make or break, and Jason's handed it to me knowing it could go either way. That's because he knows you'll make it, Ethan said, his voice softening as he brushed a strand of dark hair from her face. At 34, Ethan Bishop carried himself with the easy confidence of someone accustomed to success. His law firm had made him partner last year, the youngest in the company's history, and the achievement had only intensified his drive. It's what you do, Maya. You make things work. Something about the way he said it, like her competence was a foregone conclusion, made her chest tighten with both pride and pressure. She rested her cheek against his shoulder, inhaling the familiar scent of his cologne. When do you leave for Dallas? She asked. Tuesday? 3 nights back Friday. Maya nodded against his suit jacket. Another business trip. They were becoming more frequent lately, but that was the price of his success. Of their success, really. They were building something together, the renovated Victorian in the historic district. The investment portfolio, the future they'd planned with such careful precision. I was thinking, he said, leading her in a slow turn. We should book that trip to Bali for our anniversary in July. Really? I thought you wanted to wait until next year. Life's too short to keep waiting for the perfect moment. His green eyes crinkled at the corners as he smiled down at her. Let's do it. I'll look at flights this weekend. Later? Maya would remember this conversation and wonder if he'd already been planning his exit strategy, laying groundwork to distract her from the subtle shifts in their marriage. But in that moment, spinning beneath the string lights of the reception, all she felt was lucky. The signs were there, scattered like breadcrumbs across the following months. The late-night texts that he answered with his phone angled away from her. The sudden interest in his appearance. New clothes. An expensive watch she hadn't seen before. Extra time at the gym. The vague descriptions of his business trips. Lacking the specific complaints and colorful characters that usually populated his stories. The decrease in physical affection, followed by occasional bursts of unexpected passion that left her confused but hopeful. Still, Maya might have dismissed these changes as the natural evolution of a marriage entering its 4th year, if not for Zoe. He's different around you, her sister said during their monthly lunch, pushing her salad around her plate as she chose her words carefully. I can't explain it exactly. More performative? What are you talking about? Maya's fork paused halfway to her mouth. At Dad's birthday dinner, the way he kept touching your shoulder, announcing things about your job to everyone. It felt like he was trying too hard. He was being supportive. Or compensating. Zoe met her eyes directly. Mom and Dad didn't notice, but I saw how he kept checking his phone under the table. And that call he took outside? He was gone for 20 minutes. He had a client emergency. On a Sunday night? It happens, Zoe. Not every marriage looks like yours and Ben's perfect suburban fantasy. The hurt that flashed across her sister's face made Maya instantly regret her words. Zoe had never been anything but supportive, even when she'd questioned Maya's whirlwind romance with Ethan after just 6 months of dating. "I'm sorry," Maya said, reaching for her sister's hand. "That was unfair. I'm just stressed about this De Silva campaign. It's consuming all my mental energy." Zoe squeezed her fingers. "I understand, just keep your eyes open, okay? You deserve someone who's all in." The conversation left a residue of unease that Maya couldn't shake. That night, while Ethan worked late, she found herself opening his iPad. They knew each other's passwords, had nothing to hide. She hesitated only briefly before checking his browser history. Nothing suspicious. Work emails, sports scores, a search for anniversary gifts leather. The knot in her stomach loosened slightly. She was being paranoid, letting Zoe's concerns infect her own perceptions. But then, as she was about to close the iPad, a notification slid across the top of the screen. An email from American Airlines. "Your upcoming reservation to Chicago, Chicago." Ethan had mentioned a conference in Phoenix next week, not Chicago. Her finger hovered over the notification. One tap and she'd know more. One tap and she'd cross a line into territory where trust went to die. She put the iPad down without opening the email. Trust, her mother always said, was a choice you made every day. Today, Maya chose trust. She would ask him about Chicago tomorrow, give him the chance to explain. But Ethan came home unusually late that night, sliding into bed beside her with whispered apologies and the faint scent of scotch. And in the morning rush, his early meeting, her presentation prep, she forgot to ask about Chicago until he was already gone. His overnight bag packed for what he'd consistently referred to as Phoenix. 3 days later, she received a text with a picture of him standing in front of a Phoenix convention center, his smile tight at the edges. "Miss you. Conference is boring as expected. Call you tonight." The timestamp on the photo showed it had been taken that morning, but the weather app on her phone indicated it was raining in Phoenix. In the picture, the sky was perfectly clear. The doubt, once planted, grew like a weed. Maya wasn't proud of what she did next. On a Tuesday afternoon, she left work early claiming a migraine and drove to their house. Ethan was supposed to be in Houston for 2 days. The house should have been empty. She sat in her car across the street for almost an hour, feeling foolish and invasive, before a silver Audi pulled into their driveway. A woman stepped out, tall, blonde, dressed in a sleek pantsuit that screamed money and confidence. She opened their front door with her own key and disappeared inside. 10 minutes later, Ethan's black BMW turned onto their street. Maya slid down in her seat, heart hammering against her ribs as she watched her husband jog up the walkway to their home. Carrying a bottle of wine and wearing a smile she hadn't seen directed at her in months, she didn't confront them. Didn't storm in demanding explanations. Instead, she started the car with shaking hands and drove to her sister's house, where she vomited in the bathroom before crying herself to sleep on the guest bed. "You need to talk to him," Zoe insisted the next morning, pressing a cup of coffee into Maya's hands. "Get the truth. And then what? What happens after the truth?" It was the question that had kept her awake all night. What would she do with confirmation of what she already knew in her bones? Could their marriage recover? Did she want it to? "I don't know," Zoe admitted. "But living in limbo is worse." Maya nodded, though she wasn't convinced. Limbo meant she still had options. Confirmation would force her hand, make her choose between her self-respect and the life she'd built, the man she still loved despite everything. "I need more information first," she said finally. "I need to understand what I'm dealing with." Which is how she found herself creating a fake Instagram account to follow the blonde woman, whose name she discovered was Alexis Harmon. a real estate agent whose office was in the same building as Ethan's law firm. How she found herself casually asking Ethan's assistant about his travel schedule under the guise of planning a surprise. How she began photographing the mileage on his car and checking the credit card statements for hotel charges and restaurant bills. The evidence accumulated. Dinner for two at Maison Laurent on a night he'd claimed to be working late. A charge from a jewelry store that had never resulted in a gift for her. Weekend mileage that couldn't be explained by his claimed trips to the gym. And then, most damning of all, a phone call from the travel agency confirming Mr. and Mrs. Bishop's reservation for the Bali trip, the anniversary celebration he'd promised her, scheduled for May, not July. 2 months before their actual anniversary, on dates when Maya would be in New York for the De Silva campaign launch, he was planning to take Alexis to Bali, using their anniversary as a cover story. The betrayal was so thorough, so meticulously executed, that Maya found herself almost admiring the strategic mind behind it. The Ethan she thought she knew, straightforward, honest to a fault, had been replaced by this calculating stranger who anticipated her questions before she asked them, who constructed alibis with architectural precision. She withdrew emotionally, building her own walls. At home, she played the role of distracted career woman, too consumed by her big project to notice his absences. She worked late, cultivating her own excuses to avoid their bed. When they did share physical intimacy, she closed her eyes and tried not to wonder if he touched Alexis the same way, if he whispered the same words against her skin. The De Silva campaign became her sanctuary. In those strategy sessions and creative meetings, she was still whole, still competent. The woman who made things work. "You look exhausted," her colleague Marcus said one evening as they reviewed the final presentation materials. "Everything okay at home?" "Fine," she said automatically. Then, because Marcus had been her friend since college, long before Ethan entered her life, she allowed a crack in her facade. "Actually, no, but I can't talk about it yet." Marcus studied her face. "When you're ready, I'm here." "I know." She squeezed his arm gratefully. "Right now, I just need to focus on nailing this pitch." And she did. The De Silva presentation was flawless, earning their agency the multi-million-dollar account and Maya a substantial bonus. She should have been elated. Instead, as her team celebrated around her, she found herself thinking about how she would spend the money. A retainer for a divorce attorney, perhaps, a deposit on a new apartment, but she wasn't quite ready for those steps. Not until she had irrefutable proof. Not until she could look Ethan in the eye and speak the truth with absolute certainty. The opportunity came in the form of a last-minute business trip to Chicago. Ethan's flight was scheduled for Sunday morning. He would return Tuesday night. 3 days in which Maya could finally allow herself to search for the evidence that would either free her or chain her more tightly to her suspicions. She hadn't planned to look in his wallet. She'd been searching for their shared credit card to order dinner after he left, thinking he might have taken it by mistake. The wallet had fallen from his dresser when she moved his watch case, and there it was. The key card to the Riverside Grand, room 718. Not the Hilton O'Hare where his firm allegedly had a corporate account. She stood frozen, the physical evidence of his deception between her fingers, as the reality of her situation clarified with brutal finality. This wasn't just an affair. It was a double life, constructed with care and maintained through countless lies. Her phone buzzed with Ethan's text, "Landing in 30. Can't wait to see you. Love you. 3 years of marriage. 1 mortgage. Countless promises." All suddenly confirmed as hollow. Maya slipped the keycard into her pocket and continued folding his clothes, a plan already forming in her mind. The Riverside Grand occupied a converted industrial building along Chicago's river, its once utilitarian facade now softened with cascading greenery and dramatic lighting. Maya stood across the street, watching guests come and go through the glass doors, gathering her courage. She had booked a last-minute flight that morning, calling in sick to work for the first time in years. The 3-hour journey had given her too much time to think, to rehearse confrontations that ranged from icily dignified to embarrassingly hysterical. None of them felt right. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from Ethan, who believed she was home with a stomach virus. She had texted just enough to maintain the illusion, to keep him from becoming concerned enough to check on her through a neighbor or friend. A young couple emerged from the hotel, laughing as they leaned into each other. Maya watched them with a hollow ache in her chest, remembering when she and Ethan had moved through the world with that same easy intimacy. Had it ever been real? Or had she been playing a part in someone else's story from the beginning? The key card felt heavy in her coat pocket. She hadn't been certain it would still work. Hotel key cards were typically programmed to expire after checkout. But something told her this wasn't a one-time visit. Room 718 might well be a regular reservation. Taking a deep breath, she crossed the street and walked through the hotel's entrance with the purposeful stride of someone who belonged. The lobby was a study in industrial chic, exposed brick walls, leather sofas in cognac brown, abstract art in muted metallics. A jazz trio played in the corner bar, their music floating above the murmur of evening conversations. Maya bypassed the front desk, heading directly for the elevators. No one stopped her. No one questioned her right to be there. She pressed the button for the 7th floor and watched the doors close on the lobby, sealing her inside the small, ascending chamber with her reflection and her resolve. The 7th floor corridor was hushed, the thick carpet absorbing her footsteps as she followed the room numbers to 718. Standing before the door, she hesitated only briefly before pressing the keycard against the electronic lock. A small light flashed green. The mechanism clicked. Maya pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was larger than she'd expected. A corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows offering views of the river and the city beyond. A king-sized bed dominated one wall, its white duvet military crisp. The furnishings were minimal but expensive. A leather armchair, a glass-topped desk, a mounted television that doubled as a mirror when turned off. No personal belongings were visible. No evidence of occupancy beyond a single water glass on the nightstand and the faint scent of Ethan's cologne lingering in the air. She moved through the space methodically, opening drawers and checking the closet. Nothing. The bathroom yielded only hotel toiletries, although the shower contained 2 bottles, shampoo and conditioner, from a high-end brand that Maya didn't recognize. Not her brand. Not Ethan's either. Returning to the main room, she noticed a hotel-branded notepad beside the telephone. She picked it up, tilting it toward the light to reveal the impressions of writing on the top sheet. Someone had pressed hard enough with their pen to leave marks on the pages beneath, a time. 30. And beneath it, a simple instruction. Wear the blue one. Maya replaced the notepad with trembling fingers. 30. Less than 2 hours from now. Ethan was expecting someone in this room tonight. Someone who owned something blue that he wanted to see. She sank onto the edge of the bed, suddenly lightheaded. This was it. The irrefutable evidence she'd been seeking. No more room for doubt or self-deception. No more mental gymnastics trying to explain away the inconsistencies in her marriage. Her husband was meeting his lover here tonight, in a room he kept specifically for that purpose. The question now was what to do with this knowledge. She could wait, confront them both when they arrived. Create the kind of dramatic scene that would leave no one's dignity intact. She could call him now, tell him what she'd discovered. Listen to him stumble through explanations and apologies while she sat in the very room where he betrayed her. Or she could leave quietly. Return home and have her things packed when he came back from this trip. End their marriage with the same efficiency with which he had undermined it. As she considered her options, her gaze fell on the desk where a hotel-branded folder contained room service menus and information about the hotel's amenities. She opened it, her attorney's daughter's mind automatically scanning the fine print about checkout times and incidental charges. The suite was registered under the name of Ethan's law firm, a corporate account, with billing instructions that ensured the charges would appear on the firm's master statement rather than an individual credit card. The perfect arrangement for hiding expenses from a spouse. Anger flared, hot and clarifying. This wasn't just a personal betrayal. Ethan was using company resources to facilitate his affair. Was his firm aware? Did they condone this use of corporate funds, or was he deceiving them too? Maya photographed the billing information with her phone, her mind now shifting toward practical considerations. Leverage, evidence, the terms of their inevitable separation. A text message interrupted her thoughts. Alexis, according to the preview that appeared on her lock screen. Stuck in traffic. Might be closer to 9. Maya stared at her phone in confusion. The message wasn't from Ethan's contact. She knew his texts appeared with his name and their wedding photo. This was from a number she'd never seen before. Someone had texted her by mistake. Someone named Alexis who was running late for a 9 o'clock appointment. Alexis, the blonde real estate agent. Ethan's mistress. Maya opened the message and found herself looking at a thread of texts she had never seen before. Dozens of exchanges between herself, or rather, her phone number, and this woman named Alexis. Can't wait to see you tonight. Missing your touch. Last night was incredible. The room tilted around her as understanding dawned. This wasn't a misdirected message. This was deliberate. Alexis thought she was texting Maya, because that's whose number appeared on her phone. Ethan had given his mistress a burner phone programmed. With Maya's contact information, the elegant simplicity of the deception made her physically ill. If Alexis ever called or texted the wrong phone by accident, the message would come to Maya's phone from an unknown number, easy to dismiss as a wrong number, virtually untraceable. Meanwhile, the real communications happened on a device Maya never saw. She scrolled through the messages with morbid fascination, witnessing an entire relationship conducted in stolen hours and secret rendezvous. The texts dated back 8 months, longer than she had suspected the affair had been going on. I hate sharing you. Alexis had written just last week. You don't have to, came the reply, sent from a device masquerading as Maya's phone. It's just a matter of timing. When? Soon, after De Silva launches. She'll be distracted with the fallout. Promise? Promise. You're the one I want to wake up with every morning. Maya dropped the phone as if it had burned her. Fallout? What fallout? The De Silva campaign was performing above expectations in all test markets. The client was thrilled. Unless... A cold suspicion formed in the pit of her stomach. She picked up her phone again and opened her work email, scanning recent messages for anything concerning De Silva. Nothing unusual. Then she checked her personal email and found a message from an address she didn't recognize. Sent an hour ago. Ms. Bishop, I believe you should know that your husband has been in contact with executives at De Silva Industries regarding the upcoming product launch. As their legal counsel, he has raised concerns about potential trademark infringement in your campaign's tagline. While I cannot reveal my identity, I am aware of these discussions because of my position at your husband's firm. I felt compelled to alert you as this appears to be a significant conflict of interest given your relationship. A concerned party Maya read the email 3 times, her mind struggling to process this new dimension of betrayal. If true, Ethan wasn't just cheating on her emotionally and physically, he was actively working to undermine her professional success, to create the fallout that would leave her vulnerable while he made his exit. She checked the email's metadata, but the sender had covered their tracks well. The message could be legitimate, or it could be a malicious attempt to create exactly the kind of doubt she was now feeling. Without more information, she couldn't be sure. But one thing had become blindingly clear. She needed to protect herself, her heart, her career, her future, from the man who had promised to cherish all 3. With steady hands, she took photos of the hotel room, the notepad, the billing information. She forwarded the mysterious email to her personal account. Then she composed a brief message to Marcus. Need to talk about De Silva and potential legal issues. Urgent. Can you meet tomorrow morning? His reply came quickly, of course. My place, 8 a.m.? Perfect, she responded, relieved that she wouldn't have to have this conversation in the office where rumors spread like wildfire. She took one last look around room 718, committing its details to memory. Then she placed the keycard on the desk where it would be immediately visible to anyone entering the room. and left a single item beside it, her wedding ring. The elevator doors opened on the lobby just as her phone chimed with another text. Ethan this time from his real number to hers. "How are you feeling? Need anything?" She didn't reply. There would be time for words later. Right now, she needed action. Maya sat in her car outside the Riverside Grand, watching the hotel entrance through a light drizzle that had begun to fall. The digital clock on her dashboard read 8:47 p.m. Alexis would be arriving soon. Expecting to find Ethan waiting for her in room 718, instead, she would find an empty suite and a discarded wedding ring, the first act in a play Maya was now directing. Her phone rang. Ethan again. She let it go to voicemail, then listened to his message. "Hey, it's me. Just checking in. You haven't answered my texts and I'm getting worried. Call me when you get this, okay? Love you." The concern in his voice sounded genuine, which only fueled Maya's anger. How many times had he called Alexis with the same tone, the same words? While Maya believed he was working late or traveling for business. How many women had heard Ethan Bishop say "love you" in that exact cadence? At 8:56, a taxi pulled up to the hotel entrance. Alexis stepped out, dressed in a fitted blue dress that highlighted her model-like figure. She paid the driver and hurried inside, blonde hair gleaming under the entrance lights. "Wear the blue one." The instruction from the notepad. Maya felt a fresh wave of nausea. She started her car and pulled away from the curb. She had no desire to witness whatever happened next. Alexis's confusion upon finding the empty room, the ring, the realization that her secret wasn't secret anymore. That would play out without an audience. Maya drove to the airport hotel where she'd booked a room for the night. Tomorrow she would fly home and set the next phase of her plan in motion. But tonight, she needed to process everything she had learned and decide exactly how to proceed. In her hotel room, she spread the evidence across the bed, photos of room 718, screenshots of the text exchanges between Ethan's burner phone and Alexis, the mysterious email about De Silva Industries, the fragments of a broken marriage laid out like puzzle pieces. Her phone rang again. "Ethan." This time she answered. "Maya?" "Thank God, I've been worried sick. Have you?" Her voice was steady, betraying none of the turmoil beneath. "Of course I have." "You're not answering texts. Your sister hasn't heard from you." "You called Zoe?" The thought of him reaching out to her family, playing the concerned husband while carrying on his double life, added fresh fuel to her anger. "I was worried," he repeated. "Are you okay? Is the stomach bug any better?" "I'm not sick, Ethan." A pause. "What do you mean? Where are you?" "I'm in Chicago." The silence that followed lasted 5 full seconds. She could almost see him processing this information, recalibrating his lies. "Chicago? Why?" "I think you know why." Another pause. "Maya, whatever you think is happening, room 718, she interrupted. "The Riverside Grand. Does that sound familiar?" His sharp intake of breath was answer enough. "Maya, listen to me. I can explain. I've already seen everything I need to see, Ethan. The room, the text between you and Alexis, the email about how you're trying to sabotage the De Silva campaign." "What?" "No, that's not. Maya, where are you right now? We need to talk about this in person." "We're talking now," she said coldly. "Tell me how long it's been going on." 8 months, according to the texts. "But I want to hear you say it. It's complicated." "No, it's actually very simple. How long have you been sleeping with Alexis while married to me?" He sighed, a sound of defeat rather than remorse. "Since last August." "But Maya, you have to understand." "I understand perfectly. You've been leading a double life, using company funds to maintain a hotel suite for your affair, planning to leave me after sabotaging my career so I'd be too broken to fight back." "That's not—" "Wait, what email are you talking about?" "About De Silva?" Something in his confusion gave her pause. "I received an anonymous tip that you've been working with De Silva Industries to undermine my campaign, that you raised concerns about trademark infringement." "That's absolute nonsense," he said, with what sounded like genuine bewilderment. "I've never had any contact with De Silva Industries. My firm doesn't even work in that sector." Then why did you tell Alexis you were waiting for fallout from the De Silva launch before leaving me? Silence again. Then quietly, because the launch means long hours for you. Late nights, weekends. I thought it would be easier if you were distracted with work. Less painful for everyone. The calculated cruelty of it stole her breath. You were waiting for me to be too busy to notice you were gone. I didn't want to hurt you, he said, as if that excused everything. But you did hurt me, Ethan. You're still hurting me. Every lie, every deception, every moment you pretended to love me while planning your exit strategy, it all hurts. I did love you. Maya, part of me still does. The past tense hung between them like a guillotine blade. Don't, she said sharply. Don't you dare try to soften this with claims about love. If you loved me, you wouldn't have betrayed me in every possible way. What do you want me to say? That I'm a bastard? Fine, I'm a bastard. I cheated. I lied. I was planning to leave you for another woman. Is that what you need to hear? What I need, she said, her voice dropping to a dangerous calm, is for you to understand exactly what you've lost. Maya, the De Silva campaign is launching next week. It's going to be the biggest success of my career. The initial market tests have exceeded all projections. I closed that account, Ethan. I made it happen just like you said I would. And while I was doing that, you were plotting against me. I wasn't plotting against you. The email is a fake, Maya. Someone's trying to make things worse between us. Things can't get worse. She laughed, a brittle sound. You've already destroyed everything we built together. Not everything, he said quietly. We can still salvage something from this. If you're willing to try. The audacity of it silenced her momentarily. He was offering reconciliation? After everything? What exactly do you think we can salvage, Ethan? Trust? Respect? The belief that when you say you love me, you actually mean it? We have history. 3 years of building a life together. That has to count for something. It counted for nothing when you were with her. That was different. It was, I don't know, an escape, a fantasy. It wasn't real life. It was real to me, she said, her voice breaking slightly. Every moment I spent believing in us while you were with her, that was my real life. Ethan, and you made it a lie, she heard him sigh. Imagined him running his hand through his hair, the way he did when frustrated. What happens now? He asked finally. Now I do what you were planning to do. I leave before I'm left. She took a deep breath. When you get back from Chicago, I won't be there. I've already spoken to a lawyer. Divorce papers will be waiting for you instead. Maya, please, at least give us a chance to talk this through properly, face to face. We're way past talking, she said. But there is one thing I want to know. The email about De Silva, if you didn't send it, who did? Who else knows about your affair? Who would want to make things worse between us? The silence stretched for so long that she thought he might have hung up. Alexis has a husband, he said finally. Richard. They're separated, but not officially. He's not taking it well. The final piece clicked into place. Richard Harmon, trying to sabotage not just his wife's affair, but Maya's career as well. Collateral damage in a war she hadn't even known she was fighting. Does he know about the hotel room? She asked. I don't think so. Why? Because Alexis is there now. Room 718, finding my wedding ring where I left it. You went to the hotel? His voice rose in panic. You spoke to Alexis? I didn't need to speak to her. The room, the texts, your confession. They've told me everything I need to know. Maya, listen to me. Richard is unstable. If he knows about the hotel, that's not my problem anymore, she interrupted. None of this is my problem anymore. She ended the call before he could respond, then turned off her phone. Whatever drama unfolded between Ethan, Alexis, and the betrayed husband was no longer her concern. She had her own life to reclaim. 6 months later, the rooftop bar of the Meridian overlooked the city skyline, its outdoor terrace softly illuminated by string lights that mirrored the stars above. Maya leaned against the railing, champagne flute in hand, watching the celebration unfold around her. To the genius behind the most successful campaign launch in agency history, Marcus raised his glass toward her. The woman who single-handedly raised our profile and brought in 3 new major clients as a result. Their colleagues cheered, clinking glasses. Maya smiled, accepting the praise with a graceful nod. Hardly single-handed. This was a team effort from day one. Always deflecting compliments. Marcus shook his head, stepping closer to her at the railing. One of these days you're going to have to accept that you're extraordinary, Maya Chen. She laughed at the use of her restored maiden name. Still feels strange hearing that again. Suits you better than Bishop ever did. She couldn't argue with that. The month since Chicago had been a whirlwind of legal proceedings, career advancement, and personal reconstruction. The divorce had been finalized with surprising efficiency. Ethan hadn't contested any of her terms after she'd presented evidence of his misuse of company funds for the hotel suite. His partnership at the law firm had not survived the revelation, nor had his relationship with Alexis once the full extent of his deceptions became clear. Richard Harmon had indeed been the source of the anonymous email, a fact that emerged during a rather dramatic confrontation at the Riverside Grand that night, according to the breathless account Zoe had pieced together from various sources. The hotel security report mentioned a domestic disturbance involving 3 guests that had required police intervention. Maya had read the news item with detached interest, feeling nothing but relief that she had removed herself from the situation before it imploded. Penny for your thoughts? Marcus's voice pulled her back to the present, just reflecting on how much has changed since last year. She turned to face him, taking in the familiar features that had been part of her life for so long. First as a colleague, then as a friend, and now something else. Something still new and undefined but full of promise. Regrets? He asked carefully. About the divorce? No. She was surprised to find it was the truth. I regret the years I spent with someone who didn't truly value me. But the ending? That was inevitable from the moment he decided to lead a double life. Marcus nodded, his expression thoughtful. I've always admired that about you. Your clarity. Once you see the truth, you don't look away from it. I didn't always see clearly. I missed so many signs with Ethan. We all have blind spots when it comes to people we love. He paused, then added, the important thing is what you do once your eyes are open. The celebration continued around them, but they remained in their own bubble at the edge of the terrace, the city lights creating a private backdrop for their conversation. I had a visitor at the office today, Maya said after a moment. Alexis Harmon. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. The mistress? What did she want? To apologize, surprisingly? She's back with her husband. They're in counseling, apparently. She said she needed to make amends to move forward. And did you accept her apology? Maya considered the question. I told her I appreciated her courage in coming to see me, but that my forgiveness wasn't necessary for her healing. That we're both better off focusing on building new futures rather than fixing the past. Diplomatic, Marcus smiled. Practical, she corrected. I have no interest in carrying that burden anymore. Not anger, not resentment, not the responsibility for anyone else's redemption. And what about your own future? What are you building now? The question hung between them, weighted with possibilities. They had been seeing each other casually for 2 months. Dinner dates, weekend hikes, conversations that stretched into the early hours of the morning. Nothing rushed, nothing defined, both of them careful with the fragile trust developing between them. I'm building a life that's authentically mine, she said finally, 1 room at a time. With foundations I can believe in, he nodded, understanding the caution in her words. No key cards to rooms I'm not supposed to know about, he promised quietly. Just open doors. She felt something loosen in her chest, a knot of tension she hadn't realized she was still carrying. I'd like that. The party was winding down, colleagues saying their goodbyes and drifting toward the elevators. Marcus glanced at his watch. It's getting late. Can I walk you home? Actually, Maya said, making a decision. I was thinking of staying a bit longer. The night's too beautiful to end so soon. A slow smile spread across his face. I was hoping you'd say that. They turned back to the railing, shoulders touching lightly as they gazed out at the city. Somewhere in that grid of lights was the Victorian house she had once shared with Ethan, now sold, the proceeds split between them. Somewhere, too, was the Riverside Grand with its room 718, likely occupied by different guests with different secrets. But here, on this rooftop, was just the present moment. No deceptions. No hidden agendas. Just two people choosing to see each other clearly in the soft glow of possibility. Maya's phone vibrated in her purse, a text from Zoe checking in. A new habit her sister had developed during the worst days of the divorce. She ignored it for now. Tomorrow there would be time for family, for work, for all the moving pieces of her reclaimed life. Tonight belonged to the woman who had found a hotel keycard and lost a husband, but discovered herself in the process, stronger, wiser, and finally ready to trust again. Starting with her own instincts. "Another glass of champagne?" Marcus asked. Maya smiled. "I think we have something to celebrate."
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.